All right, YouTube, welcome back to the discussion about there's treasure inside. We're on chapter 4 today, and I'm going to do chapter 5 too because I'm kind of getting behind and I'm trying to catch up and uh, catching you guys up. I've just read it because these are from the last few days. So today's 15th, January 15th. So that's where we're at. So we're a couple of days behind on reading. So I'm just going to go through the chapters today, uh, and we'll have to do verses some other time, next time around, hopefully. We'll see how we get through this. But chapter 4 was about the 96 carat Chivor emerald. Uh, Very interesting story tied into the Spanish Empire and emerald mine in Colombia and a emerald dealer, I guess. This gentleman over here, Rob, who did a lot of finding of emeralds and brokered emeralds, and his whole life plan on doing that and growing the industry, basically. Um, Interesting part of this was the discussion on the Spanish Empire's need to find more and more emeralds as a part of the growth of their empire in South America. I remember, you know, gold was a huge part, for sure. I didn't remember so much about emeralds, but that could have just been me not reading my history very detailed. But they definitely tie it to the expansion and the collapsing ultimately of the Spanish Empire, much to the emerald industry, and in particular the Colombian mine, the Chivor mine, I believe is how you say it. Great story. One thing I noticed as we go into chapter 5, and I was contemplating about this whole book and treasure chest, treasure hunt, is there's two types of people that like treasures: people that like the stories behind the treasures, and people who like the value of the treasure. That's really, I think, I should say the monetary value, not the historical value, because there's a value in that, which is I'm more focused on the first type of person, the history behind it and the story behind it is just as valuable as the monetary value in a lot of people's minds. And I think, I mean, you can do a little bit. You can be both and be a treasure hunter. You don't have to be out for the money. You can be in it for the stories behind all these. And I think it's pretty obvious the author is, and the person who put the treasures out there is very much involved in the stories and wants other people to understand the stories behind these treasures that he's put in here. And when you think about all the massive history that's not even contained in these, that's out there in the world, all the things that are overlooked by us as a society on what treasure is and what we value, maybe reflect a little bit. The next chapter on 5 is this worker and artist that he got this. What is this? The descriptions on the other page, I believe. So these are jewelry pieces. Art Smith is the designer of these, and both of these pieces are in the treasure. And a black American from New York, I believe, is where he's from. He grew up in Jamaica and then moved to New York. So he was an artist and just made some fine jewelry. And that's kind of the story here in chapter 5. And again, focusing on, in this one, exercising of faith, which I thought was interesting, as that's what I kind of talked about in the first video I did. I was talking about faith and how we need to have more faith. I found an interesting tie in there. I was getting ahead of the story. I didn't even know it. Go back and see the first video on this if you missed it, tying into having faith and following the Spirit. But real interesting artwork and story behind the gentleman that they talk about. And obviously you can't cover somebody's whole artwork and their life story in just these few pages of these chapters. there's so much more you could go and study about all these stories and their wide variety that get thrown in here, from Spanish Empire, the Khmer, all these artists and the things they made, people who collect emeralds, like so many different stories that tie into this and just make it just like history. I mean, that's what history is. It's weaving in many, many, many different stories that we've never heard in many cases, or never knew of even, and didn't really study much of in a lot of cases, that make this book so interesting that you could find rabbit holes all over the place in here if you wanted to. So that's these two chapters of the treasures inside of emeralds, and this is metal artworks. I'm not sure if they were bronze or a brass. Well, I'm sure I read it, but I don't remember. Brass. These are there's 4 pieces total. Two of these are pictured. The modernist style brass and copper and brass on the previous one. So there's a mix, copper and brass. So metal work. So that's some of the things that there's this gentleman was the first artist of his type to be able to go to school, and he did a lot of first as from his background, and everything. He wasn't exactly well accepted from the masses, so that's part of the story, and very interesting. Interesting stuff. Good stories to find and contemplate and understand where a lot of this stuff came from. It's not just treasure because of the monetary value. It's treasure because of where it came from, who got it, what work they put into it to get it, to make it. All those things that make treasure and history so interesting. As we say, we do a lot of history around here. So that's going to be chapters 4 and 5. Next week we get into rubies, or next week, well, whenever the next chapter is, whenever we get to the next chapter, inspiration. So we'll see what that gets into next time. But if you haven't ordered the book, I encourage you to maybe consider it, just for the reading, not just for the treasure hunting. And this is sterling silver. This is another artwork from that gentleman did here at the end of that chapter. So that's sterling silver ring that he made as well. So lots of stuff in the treasure, but also more of the stories and history behind it. So hopefully Dad on YouTube has found a treasure box by now, by the time you see this. Or by the time I'm reading this. I don't know. Haven't got a report yet. We'll see what he's up to. But more to follow, YouTube. Thanks for hanging in there. History is made daily. Prep hard, live free.